What's up, everyone? I'm Charles Medley, and welcome back to my Random Tales. The Eric and Thomas season is finally going to end. This is the season finale. Yes, Eric is finally going to get what's coming to him. He is finally going to hear everything that he begged he would never hear. He's about to hear it all. But it all starts with how nice he was. Before we continue this episode, I need you to subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to click the notifications for the latest updates on my content. Alright, let's continue. Yeah, he was really cool past year and a half, with an exception of him making things up about Thomas having mold in his house, and him trying to turn the tables and make Thomas out to be the bad guy instead of the girlfriend who he's been demonizing for the past 2 years. Other than that, Eric was a real friend and was treating Thomas very good. They were best friends again. They had a project. They had a really awesome project going. They were working on it. It was social media. They wanted to get rich off of it. Eric, Thomas, and Johnny. The funny thing is, they were all going through something really, really bad. Eric and obviously his girlfriend, Johnny, and his now ex-girlfriend who he had a kid with, and Thomas and his aunt. Thomas had to kick his aunt out. He's known his aunt his entire life, and she's been his hero. And now he has to kick her out due to addiction. He was afraid he was going to come home and she wouldn't be alive anymore. That was his fear. Wouldn't that be anybody's fear? He didn't want to come home from work and find her dead on his couch or dead anywhere in his house. It was tough. All three of them were struggling, but I think the one who was struggling the most out of all three of them was Johnny, because he's got a son. An adorable little kid whose mother decided to walk out and said, "I'm just not ready to be a mother." She was 21, and she believes that she was way too young to take care of a kid that she brought into the world. That's no excuse. So they all stuck together like glue, especially Eric and Thomas. Eric and Thomas were definitely the closest out of the three, and they talked the most, constantly calling each other nonstop. Back and forth. You know, Eric would even call Thomas at work. Thomas would have to call Eric during one of his breaks. Eric would call Thomas during his work shifts and even accept calls from Thomas during his shift. They had ideas, and they wanted to get rich off of this social media website, and they wanted to get out of what they were doing. They were tired of it. They were tired of having to stress, going to work on top of the miserable, stressful life that they have at home. And because of Thomas and what he had to do, he went to seek counseling. And it went well. You know, a good Christian counselor helped him through a lot. Well, Thomas was definitely having some difficulties. His tiny little house and all of his aunt's stuff. I mean, she moved everything from a bigger house, everything of hers, from a bigger house into his tiny little house. And so he had boxes stacked. He had all of her stuff packed and stacked and ready to go. And she kept saying, "Please, please just keep it there until I'm ready to come pick it up. I will come pick it up, I promise." And Thomas is like, "Aunt Martha, it's not going to be here forever. I cannot keep this here forever. So if you are going to come pick it up, you need to come pick it up soon, because it's not going to be here forever." Around that time, Eric finally moved back into town, and he wasn't happy. It was very rough. It was extremely rough on him. He had to move away from someone who he tried to call the love of his life, someone who he tried to work things out with, and he had to leave. Let me explain to you where Eric was living. Eric's girlfriend had some pretty happy friends. You could just tell by their body language that they were very happy individuals who were very content with life. Thomas went over there for the Thanksgiving party, and you could just see them. They were very clean. They did not have bags under their eyes or anything. They just looked very content. And Eric was the only one who looked miserable. I mean, his girlfriend looked a little miserable too, but Eric looked the most miserable. Weeks after that Thanksgiving party, while Eric was still living there, he and Thomas were talking on the phone, and Eric is just getting all pissed off about everyone in that town, how superficial they are, pretending that life is just so perfect and this, that, and the other. And Thomas is like, "Listen, you're having a very bad time over there, but the people there are not bad. Just because they're happy doesn't make them superficial." And Thomas was trying to explain to him about the reality of having a tainted image of something. something that you were once happy with, but now you hate it not because of that in itself, but because of the experiences while you were there. And all Eric could do is argue about it. It wasn't exactly a fight between him and Thomas. It was just Eric being stuck in his ways and not willing to accept the fact that bad things just happen. So he sees that there's other people around, successful people who've made good decisions with their life and their relationships and all that stuff. And because they're happy with that, he calls them superficial. He accuses them of being fake. I want to spread a little awareness about that. Those of you who are miserable, look, I've been miserable in my life, but you have to avoid accusing people who are happier than you of being superficial. Instead, try to be happy that they're happy. That'll bring at least a little bit of happiness in you, just knowing that somebody else isn't stuck with your situation right now. And you will get out of your situation. Whether something big happens and you just are able to jump out of your situation, or you learn how to operate in your situation, and your situation isn't as bad, or even bad at all, or maybe even good. But do not sit there and accuse people who are happy of being fake and superficial. All right, moving along. Eric finally moves out. Moves back into his miserable town, all that stuff. Working a bad job, having to stay with a family member. He goes over to Thomas's house. Stays the night. You know, they're chilling, they're having drinks, and Thomas is Thomas is wasted, and he's telling all about his life and how he's been here and been there, and he's met these kinds of people and those kinds of people, and you know, they had a really good time. Thomas explains that he tends to do that a lot when he's drunk. That's typical drunk behavior. Wow. I can tell you I've been there too. Wow. But they both crashed. Thomas crashes on the couch because he's too drunk to realize that he was going to give Eric the couch and he was going to sleep on the floor, but Eric just moved to the floor. Well, Eric woke up the next morning with a hive on his face. He went home and tells his crazy Karen of a mother about the hive on his face, how he stayed the night at Thomas's house and got a hive on his face. And Thomas's basement's very dingy, but it's safe. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just very old, and it looks like a tiny little dungeon. Eric's mom smells his jacket and says, "Well, that smells like mold." Now, let me tell you, there's a difference between the smell of mold and the smell of basement. I mean, yes, mold mostly settles in basements, but there's still a difference, because Eric's basement smelled the exact same way, according to Thomas. So it definitely was not mold, but Eric would not stop stressing it, and Eric even made a fight out of it, and it was getting worse and worse. And Thomas was having some problems from drinking a lot to get himself to sleep. Thomas, this was just a oopsie-daisy. It wasn't like a huge problem that Thomas was having with alcohol, but he was using alcohol to get to sleep at night because he was working a very early shift. And Thomas had no idea that he was going to start experiencing withdrawal symptoms early. He thought that was like years in, but this was only months in. He was coming down from the alcohol. He was putting it away because he knew exactly what was going on. And Eric kept on insisting that it was the mold and starts sending him all these links to websites and pictures, screenshots of all the symptoms of mold. And Thomas, he's like, "Hey, don't worry, man. I'm taking care of it. You know, I gutted my kitchen out to see if there's any mold. I fixed my sink. I looked here, I looked there, I looked everywhere. I couldn't find any mold, but I took care of any situations that could possibly cause mold." Eric would not stop. He just kept on going and going and going, saying, "You got to get it taken care of. You got to get it taken care of." Like, dude, are you psycho? Did you not just hear me say, I'm taking care of it? I'm taking care of it. That's the thing that bothers me about you, man. Is that you take a situation, you take something new that you learn, and magically, it must be so. Like, how much of a coincidence is it that the same time that I've been living in this house for 5 years, and magically, I'm experiencing symptoms of mold, at the same time, I started drinking every night to get myself to sleep. And Eric started calling names, called him a knob, and all that stuff. And so Thomas says, "LOL, fact overload, I guess. Are you really that stupid, or are you just that stubborn? You know, I told you I'm taking care of it. and you know it's true, and that's why you're so mad and calling names, is because you know it's inarguable. Eric replies saying, "Oh, you're so pathetic. I feel sorry for you. Fine. Nice knowing ya," trying to end their friendship. And Thomas said, "I didn't say we could stop being friends. Where are you getting that from?" And so they talked, they made up, and they both apologized for calling names, and everything was back on track. Well, about a week later, Eric found out that the fun green stuff gives him hives. Well, we're talking about hives. You're talking about mold, but now you're talking about the fun green stuff. Come to find out, the hives came from his allergy to the fun green stuff. He was allergic to it, and he couldn't smoke it anymore. He was in a huge depression because he was very dependent on that stuff for a while because of the situation with him and his girlfriend, and especially having to move back to his hometown away from all that. Thomas did not leave his side. Thomas was like, "You know what, man? Just call me anytime. All right? I'm always here, and if I don't answer, just know that I will see that you called and I will respond. I promise. All right? You're my best friend, and I got your back." Everything was really good. Thomas would call him just to see how he's doing. One night, Eric texted Thomas. Thomas received a text late at night from Eric saying, "Hey, how's it going?" And Thomas was like, doing good. What's going on?" And he said, "Well, I'm just wondering how you're doing." So Thomas called him, and they had a really good conversation. Really good conversation about how God's been working in Thomas's life, how life has been taking a turn for the best. Thomas hasn't drank in a while. He's recovering very well. And the all-in-all urge and the withdrawals and everything, they're just gone now. Eric seemed to be very excited to hear that. He looked very genuine about it. So Eric shares his side now. He says, I feel like I'm at a bit of a fork in the road right now. I can't decide if I want to go back to Danielle or, if I want to stay here." Thomas says, "Well, I know things are tough right now, but things were even tougher then. I mean, you were very stressed out. My best suggestion is that you just stick around and see how it goes." And Eric actually looked like he was listening for once. He was following Thomas's advice without having to tear him down and then go about it a few months later hoping that Thomas had forgotten. Eric says, "Yeah, I know. It's just there's a lot of beautiful girls that I work with, and I just want to hook up with all of them." They're both giggling about that. And Thomas says, "Well, hey, why don't you set me up with one of them, eh?" And then Eric's face dropped. It happened again. The red eyes, the red face, the anger. Thomas had said something that offended Eric. What is it? Isn't it obvious? Nothing has even happened yet. Nothing. Thomas has not even tried to hook up with any of the girls at Eric's work. He hasn't even talked to them. All he did was just crack a joke and say, "Hey, why don't you set me up with one of them?" And Eric says, "Well, no, that's not going to work for you." "Oh, why is that?" "Because they're way too high status for you." "Oh, and they're not for you?" Yeah, no. It's, these are, it's your job. It's your job. I mean, these are managers, I mean, they're way higher up." "Oh, but you have a chance." Yeah, I do. "You have a better chance than I do with your part-time job and no benefits and minimum pay next to my full-time job with benefits and actually pretty good pay." Eric knew that he wasn't going anywhere with that. He knew that Thomas had put him on the spot. So there was just one last thing. Remember the stacked boxes, Thomas's aunt, all that stuff? Eric started attacking Thomas's house, saying, "Well, you're a slob. Your house is a mess." And then so Thomas closed the call. Thomas took a few breathers. Thomas wasn't so much upset at what Eric was saying about his house as much as what he was saying about his house when Eric knows the truth and the hell that Thomas went through that led to those boxes being there. Eric already knew the truth, but he knew that was an aim for the throat. And it's like if somebody's daughter dies from being hit by a car and you tell them, well, it's because you're a murderer. They know that you're not the one who killed your daughter, but they're just gonna go ahead and call you that anyways because they know that your situation was terrible and almost unbearable. Obviously, it wasn't that bad, but Thomas did have to kick his aunt out, and Eric knew that that was going to be a weak spot, a very sore subject. So Thomas gathered his thoughts, and he called Eric back, and he said, "You know my situation," and he explained the situation. Over. So with all this back and forth, Thomas started getting angrier and started getting a little louder with Eric, saying, you know, see, this is what I don't like about you. You always do this kind of stuff. You always try to bring me down. You flipped out over a light switch, for crying out loud. A light switch. I just flipped it on and off, and you flipped out about it. Eric says, "I'll give you one more chance to prove yourself." That was it. Something changed in Thomas that night. Something came out of him that was unexpected. Something that Thomas didn't even expect. All of a sudden, Thomas was remembering all the dirt on Eric. He was remembering all the pathetic decisions that Eric has made. Everything. Inventory. Just loads and loads of inventory. And Thomas says, "No, you know what? I don't need to prove anything to you. In fact, I don't see why you're so worried about my life when your life isn't all together itself. I mean, you can't even keep a job for any longer than a year. I mean, look at you." Eric cuts him off and says, Hold on. First off, shut the f*** up! You know I had to move to 3 different states! And Thomas says, "Yeah, but job A, job B, and job C, those were all in the same town, so nice try." And so Eric just looked absolutely pissed. And Thomas kept going. And he says, "And you know what? If you're that much better than me, then why are you always trying to be me?" And Eric's like, what? I get into anime, you start getting into anime. I get into books, you start getting into books. And Thomas just kind of went down the whole list of everything that Eric did after Thomas did it. And there was a point where, back before this whole fight happened, back when Eric was living with his girlfriend even called him out and said, why are you always trying to one-up Thomas? You seem to do everything that he does. So Thomas he even points that out. Your girlfriend even called you out. Danielle called you out on that. She called you out, bro. So why are you always trying to be me, huh? And Eric lost it. He lost his mind. I mean, just screaming and cussing and not even keeping his story straight.
First off, the reason why I developed that website is so that you and Johnny could fulfill your dreams. And I can't believe you would go to these low measures like you are. I just got done talking to Danielle the other day, and she's a very wise woman.
Oh, great. Yeah, let's hear about this wise woman that you have been calling a psycho, a dumbass, and a dumb bitch for the past 2 years. Let's hear you quote this wise woman's words. What do you have to say? That's not what Thomas said, but, I mean, that's what I'm saying, because, I mean, that... Come on.
And she said, sometimes people just grow apart, and I think you're getting in my way.
All right, so how is Thomas getting in your way, Eric? Eric goes on just tripping over his own words.
F you. I don't fucking need you anymore. Bye!
And then he closed the call. There was a lot more said in the conversation, but I really don't have time to read through and quote everything. But Thomas was trying to be nice to Eric and try to credit him for the things that he did developing the website and how Eric is very techie. He's very talented and all that stuff. But he wasn't going to acknowledge that without acknowledging, at least I don't try to tear your ideas down and then start mimicking your ideas months later hoping you'd forgotten about it. Basically, that's what Thomas was trying to get at. Thomas had enough. Thomas just went complete killer machine on Eric, and he was not going to let up. He didn't want to let up until Eric tucked his tail between his puny little thighs and ran. And that's exactly what Eric did. So, Eric, first off, I just want to tell you, there's no malice in any of these videos. Obviously, I would have mentioned your real name, because Thomas did write your real name. Thomas wrote his real name, too. I'm not here to attack anybody and make anybody feel attacked. However, if you, the real individual, feel that you relate to this Eric character, then you really need to change yourself. Thomas has been nothing but a good friend to you, and you have done nothing but walk on him up till maybe the last year. And you want to sit there and you want to call Thomas pathetic, you want to call Thomas foolish, You want to say that Thomas makes foolish decisions and all that stuff, but look at you, dude. You walk on Thomas and then you turn around and make really, really bad decisions. Pathetic? Let me tell you about pathetic. You piss Thomas off to the point where he says goodbye, and then you come crawling back every single time. And what's even more pathetic is you won't even apologize. Like, maybe there was only one time that you ever apologized. Only once. I mean, you're not even man enough to apologize. So let's not talk about pathetic, foolish decisions, crybabies when you're the one who was crying child abuse at the age of 25. Let's not do any of that. Let's not talk about foolish decisions when you're the one who flashed his butt in front of Thomas's camera while he was recording, while a child was present, and then continued to walk on him, not even thinking even once that, hey, you know what? If I really, really, really get on Thomas's bad side, he could post this on the internet and no one would ever look at me the same. Eric, shut up. All right, so that's all the time I have for you. I do have good news. You do not have to wait till next week to see the next video. In fact, once you're done watching this, just click over to the next for the end game, because I told you this is going to be a 2-part video. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, share the video to share the message, and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to click the notifications. All right, I hope you all had a great day, because it would suck if you didn't. God bless.